Hi, welcome back. In this video, I want to show you how to draw DareDevil's portrait using graphite pencils. So let's get started. So these are the art supplies I'm going to use for this drawing, and you can pause the video right here to note them down. I draw the outlines using grid method, and you can find all the references including this outline grid reference on my Patreon profile. Link is in the description. I'm using this A3 size paper from my ordinary drawing pad, and the drawing portion area is 11 x 14 inches. So first of all, I want to mask the edges of this drawing using a masking tape. It will help you get a straight and sharp border in the end. So starting with the background, and first of all I'm going to take this 8p powder from my homemade graphite powder kit and use it with a bigger draw brush like this to shade the background. If you don't have a graphite powder kit, you can make one at home by watching this video from the cards. Make sure you darken the outline with an 8p pencil to get proper boundary line for the background shading. Take your time and shade it thoroughly to make it as dark as you want, and then use your tissue paper to even out the shade so it would look more plain. And by the way, the real-time version of this tutorial is available on my Patreon profile. So if you want to see all these details up close and in real time, you can visit my Patreon profile. Link is in the description. Okay, now moving on to the helmet, and first of all, I'm gonna use this 3B pencil and darken the outlines of these corners and shadowed portions so they don't fade away in the blending process. Then use your B pencil and add a light base layer in this whole helmet area and blend it using a draw brush or tissue paper. Then I'm going to use this 3B pencil and darken these dark or shadowed portions of the helmet. Keep the angle between the pencil and paper minimum to thoroughly shade these areas. And notice the light is falling from the left side and the right portion of the helmet is darker than the left side. So I'm going to use this 8B pencil instead of 3B on this right side. You can increase or decrease the pressure on the pencil to get your desired amount of dark or light shades as desired. Then use your medium-sized dry brush and thoroughly blend the shades to give it a smooth look. Don't worry too much about the highlights at this moment, because you can add them later again using the eraser. The 8B shades usually gets lighter after the blending process. So I'm gonna darken these portions further using my 8B pencil. Okay, now for the highlights, I'm gonna use this perfection eraser or pencil eraser and lightly erase the shades from these highlighted portions to make the helmet look more 3D. You can vary the pressure on the eraser to add light or bright highlights as desired. And you can also use your knead eraser for these bigger highlighted areas in between. And for the bright highlights, you can use your mono zero eraser or electric eraser to add them. This upper portion of the head or helmet is brighter than the other areas. So I'm gonna use all three erasers here and make a perfect light to dark gradient, just like this. Okay, now moving on to this left side of the head, and first of all, I'm gonna use 3B pencil and add a base layer in this area and blend it thoroughly using a dry brush later on. And then I used the 5B pencil to fill this area with this second dark layer, just like this, and again blend it using a dry brush. Now for this fabric texture or pattern, I'm gonna use my mono zero eraser and fill the area with these fine and thin parallel lines. Make sure you keep the tip of your mono zero eraser sharp at all times. You can use a sandpaper or any rough and textured surface for this purpose. These sharp corners of your mono zero eraser will help you add these thin lines easily. The texture on this left portion of the fabric is more prominent. So I'm gonna use this new trick here. Just make a mesh of these white lines as you did in the right portion. But keep the spacing between the lines such that you can easily add another line in between these lines later on. Just like this. Then use your dry brush to lightly blend or lighten these white lines. And then use your sharp tip mono zero eraser again and fill these empty gaps with sharp white lines. Just like this. And when you're done with the white lines, you can use your 8B pencil and add these type of dotted lines and texture in between the white lines or texture you just added. It will give the fabric texture a good contrast, which will make it look more realistic and 3D. You can also make adjustments or add extra white lines in between where required to get your desired results. Okay, now moving on to the lips portion, and again first of all I used my 3B pencil and darkened the outlines and filled these extra dark portion of the face so they don't fade away in the blending process. And then I added a base layer using B pencil and blended it using dry brush later on. Then I used the 3B pencil again and further darkened these shadowed portions around the lips and nose portion, and again blended it using a dry brush later on. Then I used the 8B pencil and filled these pitch black areas of the shadowed portions to get the right amount of contrast in the facial features. And then I used my pencil eraser to erase these extra shades from the highlighted portions of the facial features to give them a more realistic and 3D look. I'm adding these type of dots and texture in the beard and mustache area. You can also use your mono eraser for the extra sharp highlights and texture in this area. Okay, now moving on to the neck and shoulder portions, and I'm gonna fill the neck area with a plain black shade of 8B, just like this. And for the shoulders area, I'm gonna follow the same step-by-step shading method that we always do. Darken the outlines using a dark red pencil like 5B or 8B, and then use your 3B pencil to fill the area with a base layer. But I'm not going to blend this layer because I've decided not to add fabric texture in this area. The texture I added in the ear portion took so much time, so I'm gonna keep this one simple and easy for you. Now use your 9B pencil and fill the shadowed portions and creases of the coat with darker shade, just like. Make sure you keep the angle between the pencil and paper minimum. It will help you get this rough and texture shade which will look cool as a fabric texture. And by the way, if you want to learn the basics of drawing first, you can join my course on Udemy. I put my course on sale for 5 days of every month. You can check the link in the description to see if the sale is going on right now and get enrolled as soon as possible. You don't need to blend this complete portion if you don't want to add fabric texture. Just blend these two straps on both sides and the overall look of this suit will improve. Now for the highlights, I'm gonna use the pencil eraser or perfection eraser to lightly erase these extra shades from the highlighted area to make them look more 3D. You can also use your mono eraser in between for the extra sharp highlights if required. And with this last step, we are done with this realistic portrait of DareDevil. It takes so much time and efforts to create this tutorial, so please leave a like if you enjoyed this one. It helps me a lot as an artist. So if you want to get the real-time tutorial of this drawing, you can visit my Patreon profile. And if you want to learn the basics of drawing first, you can join my course on Udemy. All the links are in the description down below. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.